In the biting chill of a winter evening in 2010, as snowflakes danced like forgotten dreams over the cracked sidewalks of a forgotten neighborhood in Chicago, a weary woman named Elena trudged home from her second shift at the diner, her thin coat barely shielding her from the wind's cruel whispers. Her feet ached from hours of standing, her hands raw from scrubbing grease-stained plates, but it was the hollow ache in her heart that weighed heaviest, widowed young, childless, and scraping by on tips that barely covered rent. That night, as she turned the corner toward her rundown apartment building, she spotted them, two small figures huddled in the alleyway, a boy no older than 10 and his little sister, perhaps 7, their faces smeared with dirt and desperation, clutching each other against the cold that threatened to swallow them whole. Their eyes, wide with hunger and fear, met hers, and in that frozen moment, Elena's world shifted. She couldn't walk away, not when the ghosts of her own losses echoed in their silent plea. If this story of unexpected kindness and the ripples it creates resonates with you, and if you believe in the power of second chances and the warmth that one act can bring to a frozen soul, please hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing your own story of kindness, share this video with someone who needs a reminder of humanity's goodness, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks for more tales that touch the heart and inspire the spirit. Elena's life had never been easy, a tapestry woven from threads of hardship and quiet endurance that stretched back to her childhood in a small town where dreams were as scarce as opportunities. Born to immigrant parents who toiled in factories until their bodies gave out, she learned early that survival meant sacrifice, that love was shown not in grand gestures but in the quiet persistence of showing up each day. Marrying young to a man with kind eyes and a gentle laugh, she had dared to hope for more, a family, a home filled with children's laughter, but fate had other plans. A car accident stole her husband away just 2 years into their marriage, leaving her alone in a city that felt vast and unforgiving. She found work at the diner, a greasy spoon on the edge of the industrial district, where the regulars were truckers with heavy hearts and locals nursing coffees to escape their own realities. Day in and day out, she poured endless cups, wiped down counters slick with spills, and smiled through the exhaustion, her tips folded carefully into a jar labeled "Someday" that never seemed to fill. But on that fateful winter night, as the snow blanketed the world in white silence, those two orphans pierced through her routine like a crack in the ice, reminding her that pain was universal, and compassion was the only bridge across it. The boy, whom she would later learn was named Thomas, and his sister Maria, had been orphaned just months before when a fire ravaged their family's tenement, claiming their parents in a blaze that left nothing but ashes and echoes. Bounced between indifferent relatives who couldn't afford more mouths to feed and a system overburdened with lost souls, they had slipped through the cracks, ending up on the streets where survival meant begging for scraps and dodging the dangers that lurked in shadows. Elena, seeing the tremble in their lips and the way Maria clung to her brother's torn jacket, felt a surge of maternal instinct she thought had died with her dreams. Without a word, she knelt before them, her knees pressing into the slush, and extended a gloved hand. She led them to her tiny apartment, a one-room haven with peeling wallpaper and a single burner stove, where the heat flickered inconsistently but was warmer than the alley's embrace. There, she rummaged through her sparse pantry, a can of soup, some stale bread, a few eggs, and prepared a meal that, to them, tasted like heaven. Steam rose from the bowls as she set them on the wobbly table, watching as they devoured the food with wide-eyed gratitude, their small bodies finally relaxing in the glow of the dim bulb overhead. It was just a meal, simple and unadorned, but in that act, Elena gave them more than sustenance. She gave them a glimpse of safety, a moment where the world didn't feel so relentlessly cruel. In the days that followed, Elena couldn't shake the image of Thomas and Maria from her mind, their faces haunting her shifts at the diner like persistent shadows. She inquired at local shelters, her voice steady despite the knot in her throat, learning that the siblings had been placed in foster care, a temporary reprieve in a system that promised little permanence. But life pressed on, demanding her attention with bills that piled like snowdrifts and a body that protested each long hour on her feet. The diner became her battlefield, where she fought against the encroaching despair of middle age, her 40s slipping into 50s with nothing to show but calluses and a heart scarred by loss. Customers came and went, some leaving generous tips on good days, others grumbling about cold fries, but Elena treated each with the same quiet dignity, her smiles a shield against the loneliness that crept in during quiet moments. Winters blurred into springs, each season bringing its own trials, a leaky roof that drained her savings, a bout of illness that left her bedridden and fearing for her job, the slow erosion of hope as friends moved on or faded away. She volunteered at a local soup kitchen when she could, ladling broth into bowls for faces that mirrored the orphans she had helped, finding solace in the act of giving even when her own cupboard was bare. Yet, doubt whispered in the night, was one meal enough? Had she truly made a difference, or was it just a fleeting spark in an endless storm? As years unfolded like pages in a worn book, Elena's struggles deepened, etching lines into her face that told stories of resilience and quiet suffering. The diner changed owners, and with it came longer hours and stingier pay, forcing her to take on odd jobs, cleaning houses on weekends, mending clothes for neighbors, to keep the lights on. Her apartment, once a sanctuary, began to feel like a cage, its walls closing in with memories of what could have been. Health issues crept in uninvited, a persistent cough from years of second-hand smoke in the diner, joints that ached with every step, reminding her that time was an unrelenting thief. Friends urged her to seek help, to apply for assistance, but pride held her back, a stubborn flame that refused to dim. She watched the neighborhood change around her, gentrification pushing out old faces for new ones with polished shoes and indifferent glances, her building slated for demolition, whispers that grew louder each year. Loneliness became her constant companion, holidays spent alone with a microwaved meal and the flicker of a television screen, where stories of triumph played out like distant dreams. But through it all, Elena held on to a quiet faith, a belief that kindness, once planted, could bloom in unexpected ways, even if she never saw the flowers. 15 years passed in a haze of routine and quiet perseverance, the world spinning faster while Elena's life seemed to slow, her steps more measured, her dreams tempered by reality. It was a crisp autumn morning in 2025, leaves crunching underfoot like brittle memories, when the unexpected arrived at her door. She had just returned from her early shift, the diner's coffee still warming her veins, when the rumble of an engine drew her to the window. There, pulling up to the curb in front of her aging building, was a sleek luxury car, its black exterior gleaming under the sun like a promise from another world. The door opened, and out stepped a tall man in a tailored suit, his face familiar yet transformed by time, accompanied by a poised woman whose smile held echoes of a child's innocence. Thomas and Maria, now adults forged in the fires of their past, had returned, their eyes searching the facade until they landed on her silhouette in the window. Elena's heart stuttered, a flood of recognition washing over her as fragments of that winter night reassembled in her mind, the hungry children, the warm meal, the fleeting connection that had lingered in her soul like an unanswered prayer. Thomas, now a successful entrepreneur who had built a tech company from the ground up, his innovative apps revolutionizing community aid programs, approached first, his stride confident but his eyes soft with emotion. Maria, a renowned pediatrician dedicated to helping orphaned children navigate the healthcare maze, followed closely, her hand clutching a bouquet of flowers that seemed to burst with color against the gray of the building. They had never forgotten Elena, the woman who, in the darkest hour, had offered not just food but hope, a single act that ignited a chain of events leading to their adoption by a loving family, scholarships earned through sheer determination, and careers built on giving back. For years, they had searched for her, piecing together clues from faded memories and old records, their success hollow until they could repay the debt of kindness that had saved them. As Elena opened the door, her hands trembling, the air thickened with unspoken words, the luxury car a symbol of the life they had built, now extended to her in gratitude. The reunion unfolded like a dream sequence in slow motion, Thomas and Maria enveloping Elena in embraces that bridged the chasm of years, their voices a symphony of thanks that brought tears to her eyes. They shared stories of their journey, the foster home that became a real family, The late night studying under dim lights, the triumphs that felt sweeter because of the struggles. Elena listened, her heart swelling with a warmth she hadn't felt since that winter night, realizing that her simple meal had been the catalyst, the spark that fueled their resilience. They insisted on taking her out, the luxury car whisking them to a fine restaurant where laughter mingled with tears, plates of gourmet food a far cry from the humble soup she had once served. But it was more than a meal. It was closure, a full circle where kindness returned manifold. Thomas revealed plans to fund her retirement, a modest home in a quiet suburb where she could rest without worry, while Maria promised regular visits, weaving her into the family they had created. Elena, overwhelmed, felt the weight of her burdens lift, the years of solitude dissolving in the glow of connection. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Elena returned home transformed, the luxury car's taillights fading into the distance like a benediction. For the first time in decades, hope bloomed anew, a testament to the enduring power of one selfless act. Her apartment, once a symbol of struggle, now held the promise of change, flowers from Maria brightening the table, a check from Thomas tucked safely away. She sat by the window, watching the world outside, and whispered a silent thanks to the universe for weaving their paths together again. Life, she realized, was a tapestry of unseen threads, where kindness cast long shadows that eventually returned as light. If this story of redemption, gratitude, and the unbreakable bonds formed by compassion has touched your heart, stirred emotions you didn't expect, or reminded you of the profound impact one person can have, please show your support by liking this video, leaving a comment with how it made you feel, sharing it with friends and family to spread the message of kindness, and subscribing to Kindness Speaks for more stories that celebrate the human spirit. And before we end, a special request, in the comments below, share one line about a moment when kindness changed your life. Let's fill the section with inspiration for everyone to read.